I'm going to leave little space for us to have utterances. I need solutions today. So I've invited somebody who has rolled up his sleeves and he's getting out there and he's fighting. Let me welcome back to the show the author of How Trump Stole 2020, investigative reporter Greg Palast. Welcome.
Glad to be with you, Karen, Professor.
Good to see you. You look nice and crisp. So you are suing. Now, you're a regular reporter. How are you suing an entire state, or two, or three?
Well, I'm suing the grifters who are in charge of the voter rolls, who are running a massive Jim Crow operation in Georgia. As you know, Brian Kemp was Secretary of State. I sued him. As a journalist, I don't sue to change policy. I sue to get information. You got a secret. We've got Open Records Acts. We've got laws, the National Voter Registration Act. You can't be messing with the voter rolls in the dark. It's you can't be removing black people secretly from the voter rolls. Now, we found the ACLU issued a report of the Palast Investigative Fund, my investigative group. The ACLU issued a report that 198,351 Georgia voters, to be exact, had been removed for moving, from Atlanta or leaving the state altogether. But as it turns out, Karen, these voters hadn't left the state. They hadn't left their homes. Their only crime was attempting to vote while black. So the ACLU issued our report, and instead of the Republican Secretary of State, this political hack, who has replaced Brian Kemp, returning the voters to the voter rolls, he's basically gone on the attack, and he's being very secretive. So we have to sue him to find out how he got it so wrong. I said, I'll sit down with you, with my experts. We actually, believe it or not, we hired the post office, the post office official licensee, to find out people hadn't moved. Now, let me give you some people. Okay, let's put some, I said 198,000. Do you realize that Stacey Abrams lost the governorship by just 50,000 votes? This is 4 times the supposed Republican victory margin. This state could swing the White House and the Senate. So, for example, when I was in 18, before COVID, I could go down to the polls and film. I was at one polling station. There's a woman in hysterics because her aunt, 92 years old, was just thrown out of the polling station. I took a photo of her. You know why? Because they said she didn't live in the neighborhood anymore, that she had moved. Well, I went to the home that they said she had left, and there's a picture of Martin Luther King on the wall, having dinner at that house with her. And I said, you knew Dr. King? She says, that's my cousin. He came here after church every Sunday. She hadn't moved from the house where King had dinner with her every week. And 92 years old, they threw this woman out of the polling station.
So tell me again, for
all
of the folk out there, my vote doesn't matter. I'm not voting. No tangibles, no vote. These folk are working really hard to throw people off because they recognize the thing that Greg Palast, that the vote matters. So they know if I can get as many people off the voter rolls as possible, we can win even if we don't have the numbers. We'll create the numbers by getting rid of people. And now we got people willfully not voting. Tell me how you – go ahead. Tell me the process.
Okay, well, let me tell you something right now. I want, for those who think, I just heard Greg Palast, they're going to block me from voting. They're not going to count my vote. Yeah. That's true. There's a lot of Jim Crow still in our system, and it's getting worse under the Trump-demic. But I'm going to tell you this. They can't steal all the votes all the time, okay? Stacey Abrams almost won despite all the Jim Crow operations. I reported that to you before. Okay, so again, they've removed almost 200,000 voters. So then we better get 300,000 more people to the polls to overcome it. Also, listen to me, people. If you're in Georgia, you know anyone in Georgia, you have a friend in Georgia, anyone, go to SaveMyVote2020.org. SaveMyVote2020.org. Check if you're on this racist purge list, and there's a link there to re-register. You have till October 5 to re-register. Let the word go forth.
Yep.
I'm now investigating massive purges of the voter rolls in Wisconsin, which Trump only won by 22,000 votes. But, so they're trying to steal it by removing more voters. They're trying to remove another 129,000 voters from the voter rolls there. But let me tell you something. For all the Jim Crow tactics that they were using in Wisconsin, stopping black voters from voting by changing the ID laws, stopping students from voting, you know what? We had Mandela Barnes elected as lieutenant governor. Tony Evers. They threw out Scott Walker. So, in other words, and it's not whether you're for or against a Democrat. It's a question of they overcame the steal in Wisconsin. The public said, you can try to block us. We can overcome it. You know, when I was writing for Rolling Stone in 16 and in 12 and 8, we spoke to Barack Obama and said, what are you going to do? He knew all about the vote suppression techniques. And maybe he should have screamed more about it. But you know what he said? He said, look, you overcome the steal. I said, they're stealing 6 million votes from me. He says, I know that. He gave me the details himself, right? But he said, so if they steal 6 million, we have 7 million more come out to vote. That's what he did. You can crush it.
Yes, he did.
And I don't care who you vote for, but they're stealing your vote because it's valuable. You don't let just someone take your car and say, okay, well, here's the keys. If you want to steal my car, here's the keys. Don't give them the keys to your vote. Don't.
I love that. I love that analogy for many, many reasons. Let's go back a little bit because I don't think I've ever, I know that you're a reporter, investigative reporter, really good. How did you become an activist in this space? Like, was there a moment that there was something outrageous? Because usually we're pretty agnostic journalists. You know, you get the facts, you report the story, you get the data, you report it, you disseminate it. But you did something different. Was there a moment that really turned you into this activist as you were out there?
Well, it turned me into a journalist because understand what I'm doing. I'm uncovering their secrets. You know, the New York Times, Washington Post, and other papers with the money to do it do what I've been doing on a shoestring budget, which is you sue government when it tries to conceal the truth. I'm not trying to change their policy, but I know that if I expose them, it does change the policy. Already when I exposed Georgia for removing people illegally, they started changing the laws. They actually reduced the number of people that they are purging. In Wisconsin, where I'm investigating now, the Board of Elections is on my side. So I only sue when they're trying to hide something. I'm not trying to change their policies because I think that the truth will change the policies. The important thing is I needed to sue. By the way, I sued Brian Kemp in court and now the current Secretary of State and won in federal court to have them open their files. So my thing is completely to get to the truth, expose it, so you know. So I get the purge list. So, for example, that's how I created Save My Vote 2020. You can save your vote. So it's all about getting the information. This hat says I'm an investigative journalist, and I ain't taking it off. I will continue to investigate, and I will continue to do journalism, and it is nonpartisan. Look, democracy isn't Republican or Democratic. It's American. We thought, but somehow we now have a group of politicians. And by the way, some Democrats pull this stunt too, so I'm not going to just say it's one single party. But right now, in this general election, it's mostly the GOP, which is removing voters of color. Why? It's not color of your skin, it's color of your vote, which is blue. I just want to expose the steal. Democrats, Republicans, whoever takes away your vote, especially using Jim Crow, new sophisticated Jim Crow tactics, I'm going to bust you.
Yeah, Joe Madison says it's James Crow Esquire. We're talking with Greg Palast, author of How Trump Stole 2020. What's the process of suing the Secretary of State of Georgia? I mean, how costly is that? Does that cost a lot of money to get the attorneys, or is it pro bono? Walk us through that.
Well, bless Jeannie Meyer, and who's head of our legal team, and we have a lot of other lawyers. Brian Spears, out of whose main work has been fighting police brutality in Georgia, but he's helped us out bring this case. They are working pro bono, but the good news is, by the way, for pro bono attorneys who want to work with Greg Palast and our nonprofit organization, when we beat Brian Kemp and his henchmen, they just had to write a big check to our lawyers for their time. So that's how it gets paid. I don't get charged. These people are working wonderfully volunteer, but when the state loses, and they do every time, our lawyers do get paid. So the state had to pay, and I don't want the state to be paying my lawyers. I want people to be allowed to vote. So stop concealing. So what we have done is we sent a formal notice Our attorneys for the Palast Investigative Fund have sent the formal notice under the National Voter Registration Act. They have to be notified that if you don't open your files, you're back in federal court, the same judge, and they're going to hit you again. But
now, let me ask you this. Hold on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The judges, we were just talking about this since the passing, not even before the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I've been talking about this since 2016. I felt like the election of Hillary Clinton was not about Hillary Clinton as much as it was the courts, all of the courts. So when you have to go present a case, a judge has to see it. If this administration is packing the courts with people who are leaning towards whatever it is he wants to get done, how does that impact your work?
Horrendously. I'm very, very concerned. We're supposed to have an open government. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It ain't their government. It doesn't belong to Brian Kemp and basically the Jim Crow grifter operators. It belongs to us. And once they change the courts, right now we have all these laws which require the government be open. If you're going to remove people from the voter rolls, you got to say why. You can't just start crossing off names of people suspiciously named Jackson and Johnson and Kim and Rodriguez, and that's the people that are being removed, and say, unless you tell me why you have a whole bunch of Jacksons and Rodriguezes on your hit list. You got to say so. I'm deeply concerned that the new court that has been created by this administration and what could happen now, and the Supreme Court, is going to take our right away to look into our own government. Once we have a secret government, where's democracy?
Where is democracy indeed? And then what's the exit strategy after that? Greg Palast, because I'm looking down, this president has seated more judges, I think, than Barack Obama's 8 years. And now he's going to have another Supreme Court pick unless the Senate gets a spine, which I don't have any faith that they will. Right. So the courts are going to be packed. What do we do then, we the people?
What we the people did when the courts were packed before by racists. Hopefully there won't be a civil war as there was after the horrible Dred Scott decision. But what we've done before, we walk that bridge. At the top of the book, How Trump Stole 2020, my book, I have a great philosopher named James Brown who said, take it to the bridge. And what I meant was we have to walk over that Pettus Bridge at Selma every chance we get. That's what Senator Hank Sanders of Selma, Alabama told me, and he took me across the bridge. You have to, that's the way you do it. You keep fighting, and you keep organizing, and you keep marching, and you keep voting no matter what they do. They can't steal all the votes all the time. They can't shut you up if you're in the streets and marching for your rights. Don't use violence because they're better at violence than we are. That's what I'm worried about. So we're not done. Look, we've had horrible courts before, and we can't always count on the courts. We have to do the work ourselves by voting, by marching, by being active. Voting doesn't solve every problem, but I'll tell you, not voting causes some really big problems.
Well, we're going to keep having you on. We're going to keep this drumbeat going. You're going to keep suing. Right. You're going to keep winning. And we're going to go to SaveMyVote2020.org. If you're in Georgia, but that's any state. That's not just Georgia, right?
And we're going to be adding other states. Go to Greg Palast. Just check out my name, gregpalast.com, and we'll be issuing our new reports on new states. Wisconsin's coming up, and then Michigan. There's all kinds of – please – and by the way, I don't care where you are. Check your registration. 16 million people have been purged from the voter rolls. If they can remove Martin Luther King's cousin, 50 years voting at the same place, they can remove you. They removed me. I checked my registration. I had to re-register. Do it now. Most states shut down at the first week of October on registration. Check now. Make sure you can vote. Don't be caught where they say, sorry, your name ain't there. 16 million people have lost their vote through purges. Most of you have no idea that that's occurred. Please check your registration and go to gregpalast.com. I'll keep you informed of where you can check these things out.
That's Palas as in Sam T. Thank you so much, sir, for being here.